Today is day 307 of the October 7th war and the Hamas hostage crisis. Iran's proxy army in Lebanon is about to set the Middle East on fire. It's about to ignore the whole international community and escalate Iran's regional war against Israel with a massive attack targeting civilians. Hezbollah is planning to avenge the death of a major terrorist who murdered Israeli civilians by targeting more Israeli civilians. While the Islamic Republic of Iran plots how to avenge the elimination of Hamas warlord Ismail Haniyeh, Hezbollah is reportedly planning to go it alone and expand its rocket fire against Israeli towns. Hezbollah joined this war on October 8th in solidarity with Hamas's October 7th massacre. 2 days ago, Hezbollah's top warlord Hassan Nasrallah gave a speech in Beirut. Hiding in a bunker deep underground, Hassan Nasrallah appeared remotely on a screen. He declared that Israel is no longer as strong as it was in the past, and neither are its defensive capabilities. At least, that's what we think, he said. It was hard to hear just how weak he thought Israel was, because Israeli fighter jets were flying overhead and interrupting with sonic booms. Those warplanes were meant to remind Nasrallah. That speech was called to mark 1 week since Israel eliminated Hezbollah's number 2. It should have reminded Nasrallah of the hundreds of other Hezbollah murderers whom Israel has taken out in the last months and the tremendous damage that Israel has already caused to his Iranian-funded army of terror. They should have reminded Nasrallah of a speech he gave 25 years ago when he said that Israel was as fragile as a spider's web. But fun fact, spider's silk is 5 times stronger than steel, and Israel is stronger than Hezbollah thinks. Nasrallah was wrong before and Nasrallah is wrong now. When Nasrallah declared war on Israel a few years later, in 2006, the Second Lebanon War, Nasrallah, Hezbollah and their Iranian backers brought ruin to the people of Lebanon. Since Hezbollah declared war on the people of Israel on October 8th, they have launched 7,000 rockets, missiles and drones from Lebanon, trying to murder us. If Hezbollah expands its war and Israel retaliates, people may ask, why is Israel escalating? You need to tell them this. Hezbollah started this war in the north on October 8th in solidarity with Hamas. Hezbollah has been escalating every day since in the service of its warlord patrons in the Islamic Republic. It will force Israel to act against them in order not to encourage further aggression. Israel wants peace with Lebanon. There is no reason for a conflict between Israel and Lebanon. All we want is for Iran's proxy army to stop bombing northern Israel and to back off in accordance with UN Security Council Resolution 1701 so that people can go back to their homes without fear of a Lebanese October 7th. Nasrallah said that the blood, wounds and suffering have created many real and clear achievements and victories for our people, our country and our nation. There are no achievements, Mr. Nasrallah, only destruction. Don't test the people of Israel. Don't bring ruin again on the people of Lebanon. Don't again sell out Lebanon's people for the radical leaders of the Islamic Republic and their criminal caliphate. And as Israel has warned to our neighbours in Lebanon, your beautiful country has been taken hostage by Hezbollah, a terrorist army that has wreaked destruction, terror and instability across Lebanon. Hezbollah is not only a threat to us in Israel, but a threat to the safety and security of you, the people of Lebanon. Now is the time to speak up, before it's too late, before Iran's proxy army drags us into a war that nobody but the Islamic Republic wants. And I'll add, now is the time for Nasrallah and Hezbollah to back off. 60,000 Israelis need to return to their homes in northern Israel. They have been displaced for 10 months. Either Nasrallah ends his war, or Israel will be forced to make him back off. The world just found out what globalizing the Intifada means. 3 Taylor Swift gigs cancelled because of a jihadi terror plot in Austria. ISIS terrorists reportedly planned to plant bombs and murder some of the 65,000 fans. The Intifada was a wave of suicide bombings against Israelis in the early 2000s. Globalize the Intifada means blow up that bus. Globalize the Intifada means kill Jews wherever you find them. Globalize the Intifada means export jihad to the West. And it means murdering concert goers, just like Hamas death squads did on October 7th at the Nova Music Festival. Some people in the West cheered the Hamas death squad's massacre on October 7th. The October 7th massacre inspired and excited Islamic terrorists around the world, and it gave them a model to copy. And now ISIS tried to turn Swift's Eras concert into another Nova massacre. Campus tentifadas and protests celebrating Hamas death squads as freedom fighters encourage more attacks against the West. When Israel defeats Hamas, it will be a defeat for terrorism. Because if terrorists think they can get away with the October 7th massacre, they will do it again, everywhere, to everyone. Islamic terrorists like Hamas and ISIS are enemies of the West, enemies of freedom, enemies of humanity. Terror sometimes starts with the Jewish people, but it never ends there. For months we've been warning the West is next. And with the Taylor Swift concerts, it just had a lucky escape. This war that Hamas started must end with the defeat of Hamas and the freeing of the hostages, or there will be a next time, and it will be worse, and it could be targeting you abroad. If Israel loses, you lose. Israel's security is your security. Stand with Israel against terror, and you'll keep us all safe. For those asking how you can help, please find links to our JGive campaign across social media. Those donations truly help us get the word out. Please like and subscribe, and you'll see links on our social media platforms to the mailing list as well for those who want to be part of our spokesperson community and stay in the loop on all you need to know. We'll take questions now from our audience watching live on social media. You can submit questions across the platforms. We're monitoring them all. Yes?
Our first question today comes from Ed Barr on YouTube, who asks, after admonishing Israel for reportedly eliminating Haniya and thus delaying the deal, the White House said we are closer than ever to a deal. What changed so fast?
I don't know whether Israel killed Hamas warlord Ismail Haniya in Tehran. If it did exactly what the West told it to do. For months, Western leaders and allies have been telling Israel, go after the people who did October 7th, don't go for a big ground offensive in Gaza, target the leaders. And if Israel took out Haniya, just like it took out Mohammed Def, and just like it took out Marwan Issa, and just like it reportedly took out Salah al-Aruri, then it is doing exactly what the world has been telling it to do, a precision strike against terrorist masterminds that left no civilian casualties. We need a deal to get the hostages out. It is day 307 that they are being starved and tortured and raped and executed in the Hamas terror dungeons. 115 still there. At least 40 plus we know are already dead. There is no time to get them out. And Israel wants to get them out by creating the conditions for a deal. The conditions for a deal are when Hamas's surviving leaders feel the walls closing in on them and say that it's in their interest to let the hostages go. They have a reason to. They want to use them as human shields. They want to use them as bargaining chips, and Israel is trying to force them to let them go so that they can try to save their own skins. I don't know what calculations are being made in the White House or in the defense establishment here in Israel and assessments based on intelligence about how close Hamas is to accepting a deal. But it doesn't matter what you're hearing in the media. The fact is this: Hamas does not want to release the hostages. Its backers, Turkey, Qatar and Iran, do not want to release the hostages. The European Union, which is pumping money into UNRWA, a Hamas front, is not using all the leverage that it can to force it to release the hostages. And just yesterday we filmed an episode of State of a Nation with Leah Goldin, whose son Hadar Goldin was killed and abducted 10 years ago during a ceasefire. His body is still there, and she had some scathing remarks about how the world is not using its leverage to force Hamas to free the hostages. So until we see those hostages in a Red Cross ambulance being taken out of the Gaza Strip and safely back to their families, you cannot afford to be complacent, and you need to keep putting pressure on your governments to tell Hamas and its backers to let them go now, immediately and unconditionally.
Given the latest reports we've been hearing of Hezbollah potentially taking unilateral action, Anna Hecht on Instagram asks, what could an attack look like from Hezbollah on its own?
We need to stop talking about what will happen if a war erupts. What will happen if Hezbollah decides to attack? Hezbollah declared war on October 8th. Today is 10 months since Hezbollah declared war on Israel. It's been firing 7,000 rockets and drones at Israel. It's forcibly displaced 60,000 Israelis. There is already a war that the Islamic Republic's proxy army has been waging against Israel, and it has caused misery for tens of thousands of Israelis. Now, Hezbollah, as the Islamic Republic's proxy army in Lebanon, is a very powerful military. It has a missile arsenal of over 200,000 rockets, more than all NATO armies combined, apart from the US. It has a strong fighting force and elite forces called the Radwan forces, and Israel has been systematically degrading them. Hezbollah has rockets that can reach every corner of the land of Israel, many of them precision-guided, many carrying very heavy warheads. Even without a direct attack from Iranian soil, Hezbollah can cause immense damage in Israel because it can fire an intense barrage of rockets, some of which will get through Israel's missile defenses because they're not hermetic. And the Iron Dome has done amazing things by allowing Israel to defend itself, but you still have to run for shelter, and some of those rockets will still get through. Some of them are precision guided and with very big explosives indeed. And that's why it's so important that the US is sending a strike carrier group to the Middle East to amplify President Biden's warning from the beginning of the war. Anyone thinking of messing with Israel, don't. We do not want to see an escalation with Hezbollah. We want Hezbollah to back off, because if it does not back off, you know the end of the line already. Israel will have to push it away.
Next question comes from Sammy Tisser on YouTube, who asks, many people in the diaspora are scared about a possible attack from Iran on Israel. Are there any positive messages you can give to uplift them?
Sammy, that's a good question. You're right, the situation is scary. By the way, it's scary for Jews in the diaspora as well. You also have to be vigilant. It is possible that Iran and Hezbollah could try to attack Jewish targets around the world, and that's why community security organizations are being hyper-vigilant. But I'll say this, the Israeli people are incredibly resilient. In any other country in the world, expecting an imminent barrage of Iranian missiles, you would see panic and looting and rioting and people trying to flee the country. And in Israel, life is going on as normal as it can. The beaches are full, the cafes are full, the bars are full. It's impossible to get a restaurant reservation. Israelis who are stuck abroad are not trying to extend their stay abroad. They're doing everything they can to get back to Israel. And people here are going about their ordinary lives, trying to maintain normality for as long as they can until the sirens start or the home front command instructions change. And then we know we'll have to go into emergency mode and switch gears and hunker down until the threat has passed. But the fact that you're not seeing panicking or rioting or looting and people are going on with their day-to-day lives, and honestly, if you were outside in Tel Aviv now, you would not expect that we are on high alert, total emergency readiness for a possible combined Hezbollah, Houthi, Iranian attack. That speaks to the strength and courage of the Israeli people, and it's why I, as a citizen spokesman, am so convinced and so confident that we're going to get through this, because Israelis are tough.
The next question comes from Bata Zuza on Instagram, who asks, can you really envisage that the USA would withhold important weapons to Israel?
The United States has already withheld important weapons from Israel. The Biden administration announced a few months ago that it was stopping the transfer of certain very heavy bombs because it did not want Israel to use them. Now, it's important to say, all presidential candidates have said they're committed to Israel's security. Kamala Harris as well, the vice president, said that she is committed to ensuring that Israel has everything that it needs in order to protect itself against the Islamic Republic and its proxy armies. But here is where the information war matters. And here is where your voice matters. And the conversations that you are having with friends and families, and your conversations with your elected representatives as well. There is a lot of pressure being put on world leaders to throw Israel under the bus and abandon it in a way that would weaken the West's own security. People spreading lies about what Israel is doing in this war in order to pressure Western leaders to weaken Israel and thus weaken themselves. And we need you to stand up for Israel, because standing up for Israel means standing up for your own countries as well, because Israel keeps the West safe by fighting enemies of humanity, by fighting the same terrorists who would gladly blow up a Taylor Swift concert anywhere in the West. So is it inconceivable that Western countries could stop selling arms to Israel? No, it's not inconceivable. There's pressure from people who want to take them in that direction. And that's why we've set up the Citizen Spokesperson's Office, to give you the tools and the talking points and the information that you need to fight against the people who are trying to weaken Israel and leave it exposed and vulnerable, as the terrorists who perpetrated October 7th vow to do the same again and again until we're all dead.
Our next question is being asked across a number of our audience members, but this one particularly comes from Shane Spring on Instagram, who asks, why do all of you hosts refer to Iran as opposed to the Iranian regime or the IRGC? There is a clear distinction and difference.
You're right. Sometimes we find ourselves slipping into calling the regime Iran because it's 2 syllables and it shortens a sentence. But you're right, we should not be referring to the Ayatollah regime that has taken over Iran as Iran. It is the Islamic Republic of Iran. It is the Iranian regime. It is the Ayatollahs. It is Tehran's terrorist theocrats who have taken over a beautiful country with a rich heritage, culture, legacy, and people who are not our enemy and have been taken hostage by the brutal theocratic regime that rose to power in the late 70s. So I'll say on behalf of all the citizen spokespeople here, we're going to make an effort to refer to the Islamic Republic and the Iranian regime. And I think out of gratitude to the many Iranians in the diaspora who are joining pro-Israel rallies and waving their flags and saying they want peace with Israel and speaking out against Khamenei and the other evil leaders in that country, we will do our best to speak of the Islamic Republic and the Iranian regime and not Iran, because the people of Iran are our natural allies in this region. And inshallah, Be'ezat Hashem, one day we will have flights between Tel Aviv and Tehran yet again.
And our last question today comes from Annika Tyson, who asks, Eylon, do you feel exhausted after 10 months of Israel advocacy?
Annika, I think everyone in Israel is feeling burnout. It is exhausting to wake up every day and fight for your lives. Israel is under attack by the Iranian regime and its proxy armies on 7 fronts. Not only 7 fronts, but there's the information war, the legal war, the constant lies being told about Israel, the economic effects of this war, the social strain that it is placing on us and our friends and our families, and of course the knowledge that this could escalate at any moment, the fear for soldiers who are down at the front, the fear for the displaced families, fear for people who are still up near the northern border. And so people are tired and people are weary. But we know that we don't have the luxury of giving up because we understand what we are up against. We understand that we are surrounded by terrorist armies that want to murder all of us in the most brutal way imaginable. I'll be blunt, we know that if we lose this war, we're all going to die. And that's why everyone in Israel, and people around the diaspora as well, are so committed to helping us win this war and rebuild this country and rebuild its reputation, because we cannot bear to think of a world in which the terrorists who perpetrated the October 7th massacre emerge from this war free and emboldened to do it again. So yes, we're tired. Yes, we're weary. We're the lucky ones because we're not in uniform and we're not sitting in a tank. But yes, we have the confidence and the resolve and the determination to continue until total victory. That's all we have time for today. Thank you very much. We will be back on Sunday with our daily briefings, 3 o'clock Israel time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Please remember to follow on all the social media platforms and follow on the podcast as well, so you can listen if you're not watching it live, catch up later. Let's hope for a quiet and peaceful weekend. Thank you for joining us, and keep safe.